If you are over 60, or if you love someone who is, then what you hear in the next few minutes could genuinely change the way you look after yourself. Because somewhere in America right now, a man is sitting in his favorite chair, telling himself that the tiredness in his legs is just old age. A woman is climbing her porch steps a little slower than she used to, and she is blaming it on the humidity. And neither one of them realizes that their heart might be quietly asking for help. Today we are going to walk through 8 warning signs that your heart may not be working the way it should. Signs that are so easy to brush off as normal aging that most people miss them completely. Stay with me until the end, because the 8th sign is the one that catches almost everyone off guard, and I promise you, it is not what you expect. Before we go further, if you find this kind of clear, honest health information valuable, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Longevity Insight is built for people who want to age with strength, independence, and a body that keeps up with their plans, not the other way around. It takes 2 seconds, and it means you will not miss the videos we have coming up on protecting your brain, your joints, and your energy as the years go on. Now, let us get into it. Here is something worth sitting with for a moment. According to the American Heart Association's most recent nationwide data, cardiovascular disease remains the leading cause of death in the United States, and it becomes dramatically more common as we age. Among adults between 60 and 79 years old, roughly 3 out of every 4 have some form of cardiovascular disease when high blood pressure is included in that count. Once you pass 80, that number climbs even higher, affecting the large majority of men and women in that age group. These are not rare or unusual numbers. This is the ordinary reality of aging in America today. And yet, so many people walk around with early warning signs for months or even years without recognizing what their body is trying to tell them. That is exactly why this video exists. Not to frighten you, but to arm you with the kind of awareness that lets you act early, talk to your doctor with confidence, and protect the years ahead of you. Let us start with warning sign number 1, and it is one almost everyone experiences at some point, which is exactly why it gets ignored. Unusual fatigue. Now, we are not talking about feeling sleepy after a big lunch or being tired after a long day of yard work. We are talking about a deep, unexplained exhaustion that shows up even after a full night's rest, or fatigue that hits you in the middle of simple tasks you used to do without a second thought. Things like making the bed, carrying groceries in from the car, or even just standing at the kitchen counter preparing a meal. When the heart is not pumping blood as efficiently as it should, your muscles and organs do not get the oxygen-rich blood they need to keep up with everyday demands. Your body responds by making you feel tired because in a very real sense, it is starved for fuel. Many people over 60 write this off as simply getting older, but persistent, unexplained fatigue that is new or getting worse deserves attention. It is one of the quietest signals the heart sends out, and one of the most commonly ignored. Warning sign number 2 is shortness of breath. If you find yourself gasping a little after walking up a flight of stairs you used to climb easily, or if you feel breathless while doing light chores, mowing a small patch of lawn, or even lying flat in bed at night, this is worth paying close attention to. When the heart struggles to pump effectively, fluid can back up into the lungs, making it harder to breathe, especially when you are lying down. Some people notice they need an extra pillow just to feel comfortable at night. Others notice they have to pause halfway through a task to catch their breath. This is different from the breathlessness of simply being out of shape. It tends to come on gradually. It often gets worse over weeks or months, and it does not improve much with rest the way ordinary tiredness does. If breathing has become a noticeable effort during activities that used to be effortless, that is your body raising a hand and asking to be heard. Number 3 is swelling, particularly in the legs, ankles, and feet. This is one of the most classic signs of a heart that is not circulating blood efficiently, and it is also one of the easiest to dismiss, especially in the summer heat or after a long day on your feet. When the heart's pumping ability weakens, blood can pool in the lower body and fluid seeps into the surrounding tissue. You might notice your socks leaving deep indentations in your skin at the end of the day, or your shoes feeling tighter in the evening than they did in the morning. Some people press a finger into the skin on their shin and notice that the dent stays there for several seconds, which is a sign doctors specifically look for. Occasional mild swelling after a long flight or a hot day is common and usually harmless. But swelling that is new, that happens on both legs, that gets progressively worse, or that does not go away overnight is something you should mention to your doctor rather than hide inside a looser pair of shoes. Warning sign number 4 is chest discomfort. Now, this does not always look like the dramatic clutch your chest scene you see in movies. In fact, for many people, especially as they get older, and especially for women, chest discomfort related to heart trouble can be surprisingly subtle. It might feel like pressure, tightness, or a squeezing sensation rather than sharp pain. Some people describe it as feeling like an elephant sitting on their chest. Others feel it more as heaviness or discomfort that spreads to the shoulders, arms, neck, jaw, or even the back. It can come and go, and it often shows up during physical activity or emotional stress and eases with rest, which is exactly the pattern that makes people assume it is nothing serious. If you experience chest discomfort that is new, unexplained, or occurs alongside sweating, nausea, or lightheadedness, this is not something to wait out. It deserves prompt medical evaluation because time matters enormously when the heart is involved. Number 5 is an irregular heartbeat, sometimes called palpitations. This might feel like your heart is fluttering, skipping a beat, racing for no clear reason, or pounding heavily in your chest. Many people notice it most when they are sitting quietly or lying in bed at night, when there are fewer distractions to drown it out. Occasional palpitations, especially after caffeine, stress, or a poor night's sleep, are common and often harmless. But a heartbeat that is frequently irregular, that comes with dizziness, or that lasts for more than a few seconds at a time, can be a sign of a heart rhythm problem such as atrial fibrillation, which becomes significantly more common with age and carries its own risks, including a higher chance of stroke if left unaddressed. If you have ever placed 2 fingers on your wrist or neck and thought, "That does not feel quite right," trust that instinct enough to get it checked. Warning sign number 6 is dizziness or lightheadedness, particularly when standing up. Feeling a brief head rush now and then is normal, especially if you stand up quickly. But if dizziness is becoming a frequent visitor, if you feel like you might faint, or if you have actually lost consciousness even briefly, your heart may not be pumping enough blood to your brain. This can happen because of an irregular heart rhythm, narrowed arteries, or a heart that has weakened over time. It is easy to blame this on dehydration or simply standing up too fast, and sometimes that really is the cause. But recurring dizziness, especially in someone over 60, is worth discussing with a doctor rather than quietly adjusting your routine to avoid triggering it. Number 7 is poor circulation, which often shows up as cold hands and feet, a bluish tint to the fingers or toes, or wounds on the legs and feet that seem to take an unusually long time to heal. When the heart is not pumping strongly enough, or when the arteries carrying blood to the limbs become narrowed, the extremities are often the first place to feel the effects, simply because they are the farthest from the heart. Some people also notice cramping in the calves during walking that eases with rest, a pattern doctors call intermittent claudication, which can be linked to narrowed arteries in the legs. If your feet are frequently cold, even in a warm room, or if a small cut on your foot is taking weeks instead of days to heal, this is worth mentioning at your next checkup. And now, warning sign number 8, the one I promised you at the beginning, and the one that surprises the most people: reduced exercise tolerance. This is different from simple fatigue because it is specifically about a noticeable drop in what your body can handle physically compared to what it could handle before, even a year or two ago. Maybe you used to walk a full mile without stopping, and now you find yourself needing to pause halfway through. Maybe gardening for an hour used to be relaxing, and now it leaves you feeling wiped out for the rest of the day. The reason this one catches people off guard is that it happens gradually, almost invisibly, so gradually that people simply adjust their lives around it without realizing anything has changed. They stop taking the long walk. They ask someone else to carry the heavier bags. They tell themselves they are just getting older and slowing down, which everyone expects to happen eventually. But a sudden or steadily progressing drop in what your body can do, especially when it happens over a period of months rather than years, can be one of the earliest and most telling signs that the heart's ability to meet the body's demands is declining. It is often the very first thing people notice, even before chest discomfort or swelling appear, precisely because everyday physical activity is one of the most demanding things we ask of our hearts. So now that we have gone through all 8 signs, you might be wondering what actually causes these problems in the first place, and more importantly, what can be done about it. The honest answer is that heart health is shaped by a combination of things we cannot control, like genetics and age, and a great many things we absolutely can influence. As we get older, the heart muscle can naturally stiffen slightly and arteries can lose some of their flexibility, a process that happens to some degree in nearly everyone. But according to major health organizations, a significant portion of heart disease risk is tied to modifiable factors, including high blood pressure, high cholesterol, blood sugar problems, excess weight, smoking, poor diet, physical inactivity, and chronic stress. High blood pressure alone affects a large majority of American adults over the age of 75, and it is often called a silent condition because it typically produces no symptoms at all until it has already done damage. This is exactly why regular checkups become more important, not less, as we age. A simple blood pressure cuff, a basic blood test, and a conversation with your doctor can catch problems years before they turn into an emergency. Before we move into solutions, I want to address something that comes up in the comments of almost every heart health video I have ever watched, which is the question of whether men and women experience these warning signs differently. The answer is yes, and it matters. Research consistently shows that women are more likely to experience what doctors call atypical symptoms, meaning instead of classic chest pain, they might feel unusual fatigue, nausea, back pain, or jaw discomfort. This is one of the reasons heart problems in women have historically been underdiagnosed or caught later than they should be, because both patients and sometimes even doctors were trained to look for the textbook male pattern of crushing chest pain. If you are a woman watching this, or if you are a husband, son, or friend paying attention on behalf of a woman in your life, keep this in mind. The absence of dramatic chest pain does not mean the absence of a heart problem. Gentlemen, this cuts both ways too, because men often ignore early symptoms specifically because they do not seem severe enough to interrupt a busy day, and that delay can be costly. It is also worth mentioning that certain risk factors compound each other in ways that are easy to underestimate. Someone who has high blood pressure and also smokes and also carries extra weight around the midsection is not simply adding up 3 separate risks. The combination tends to multiply the overall danger to the cardiovascular system. This is precisely why doctors often talk about managing the whole picture rather than fixating on one number. A person might have perfectly normal cholesterol and still be at meaningful risk if their blood pressure is high and they are inactive. This is also good news in a way, because it means improvement in even one area, like finally getting consistent sleep or cutting back on salt, can meaningfully lower overall risk, even if you have not addressed everything at once. Heart health is not an all-or-nothing project. It rewards small, steady progress. Let us talk about what you can actually do, starting with diet, because food is one of the most powerful tools we have for supporting the heart. This does not mean punishing yourself with a diet you hate. It means leaning toward a heart-friendly pattern of eating that emphasizes vegetables, fruits, whole grains, lean proteins like fish and poultry, nuts, and healthy fats such as olive oil, while cutting back on excess salt, added sugar, and heavily processed foods. Something as simple as swapping out salty packaged snacks for a handful of unsalted nuts or choosing grilled fish over fried, fatty cuts of meat a few times a week can meaningfully support healthy blood pressure and cholesterol over time. Many cardiologists point to eating patterns like the Mediterranean diet or the DASH diet as particularly well studied for heart health, and both are built around real, satisfying food rather than restriction and deprivation. Next is physical activity. And here is some genuinely encouraging news. You do not need to run marathons or lift heavy weights to protect your heart. Most health guidelines suggest aiming for around 30 minutes of moderate activity most days of the week, and that can be as simple as a brisk walk around the neighborhood, some light gardening, swimming, or even dancing in your living room to your favorite music. The key is consistency, not intensity. Movement helps keep blood pressure in check, supports healthy circulation, helps manage weight, and even improves mood and sleep, all of which circle back to support the heart. If you have been inactive for a while, or if you have any existing health conditions, it is worth having a conversation with your doctor about what level of activity is right for you, so you can build up safely and confidently rather than overdoing it on day one. Sleep is another piece of this puzzle that people tend to underestimate. Quality sleep gives the body, including the heart, a chance to rest, repair, and regulate itself. Poor sleep, or conditions like sleep apnea, which becomes more common with age and often goes undiagnosed, has been linked to higher blood pressure and increased strain on the heart over time. If you snore heavily, wake up gasping, or feel exhausted no matter how many hours you spend in bed, it is worth asking your doctor about a sleep evaluation. Something as simple as treating an underlying sleep issue can make a real difference in how your heart functions day to day. And then there is stress, something almost everyone deals with, but very few people manage well. Chronic stress keeps the body in a heightened state, which can contribute to elevated blood pressure, inflammation, and unhealthy coping habits like overeating, smoking, or drinking. This does not mean stress needs to be eliminated entirely, which is not realistic for anyone. It means finding ways to manage it that work for your life, whether that is a daily walk, time with grandchildren, prayer or meditation, a hobby that brings you joy, or simply staying connected with friends and family instead of isolating yourself. Loneliness and social isolation, in fact, have been increasingly recognized by researchers as real risk factors for heart health in older adults, which is a good reminder that staying connected to the people you love is not just good for your spirit, it is good for your heart in a very literal sense. Of course, none of this replaces regular medical care. Routine checkups allow your doctor to track blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar over time, catching small changes before they become big problems. A basic annual visit for someone over 60 often includes a blood pressure reading, a cholesterol panel, a blood sugar check, and a conversation about weight, activity, and any new symptoms. Depending on your history, your doctor might also recommend an EKG to check your heart's electrical rhythm, or refer you to a cardiologist for further testing if something looks worth a closer look. None of this needs to feel intimidating. Think of it less like a test you can fail and more like a tune-up, the same way you would take a car in for regular maintenance rather than waiting for it to break down on the highway. If you are over 60 and it has been a while since your last physical, or if any of the 8 warning signs we discussed today sound familiar, please consider that your cue to schedule an appointment. You know your body better than anyone else does, and noticing when something feels different is not being dramatic or paranoid. It is being responsible. Doctors consistently say that patients who speak up early about subtle changes tend to have far better outcomes than those who wait until a symptom becomes impossible to ignore. And if you are the kind of person who tends to downplay things, the kind who says it's probably nothing, even when a part of you suspects otherwise, I want to gently push back on that instinct today. Nobody expects you to panic over every ache or every tired afternoon. But there is a real difference between reasonable calm and quiet avoidance. Reasonable calm says, I noticed something new. I will mention it at my next appointment or call the office this week. Quiet avoidance says, I will just wait and see, and then keep saying that for months. The people who tend to do best with heart health, according to nearly every doctor who has spoken publicly about this, are not the ones who never have symptoms. They are the ones who take their symptoms seriously early, while there is still plenty of room to make changes and get ahead of a problem. I want to leave you with this thought. Aging is not something to fear, and it is certainly not something you need to face without knowledge on your side. Your body has been sending you signals your entire life, little messages about what it needs, what it can handle, and when something is off. The difference now is simply learning to listen a little more closely and acting on what you hear. The 8 signs we covered today, unusual fatigue, shortness of breath, swelling in the legs, chest discomfort, and irregular heartbeat, dizziness, poor circulation, and reduced exercise tolerance, are not meant to scare you into worry. They are meant to hand you a kind of map, so that if you or someone you love ever notices one of these changes, you will know it is worth a phone call, worth a conversation, worth taking seriously rather than shrugging off as just another part of getting older. There is one more thing I think is worth saying before we close, and it has less to do with medicine and more to do with mindset. So many of the people I hear from in the comments on this channel are not just trying to avoid a heart attack, they are trying to stay independent. They want to keep driving themselves to appointments, keep hosting Sunday dinners, keep chasing grandchildren around the backyard, keep traveling to see family without worrying about what might happen along the way. That desire for independence is one of the most powerful reasons to take these 8 warning signs seriously. Because heart health is not just about adding years to your life, it is about protecting the quality and freedom of the years you already have ahead of you. Every small habit we talked about today, the daily walk, the slightly better breakfast, the appointment you finally schedule, the earlier bedtime, is really an investment in staying the person who can still do the things that matter most to you on your own terms for as long as possible. If this video gave you something valuable today, I would genuinely appreciate it if you took 30 seconds to leave a comment below and let me know which of these 8 signs surprised you the most, or share a moment when your own body tried to tell you something important. Your comments help this channel reach more people who need to hear this, and honestly, they help me know what to cover next. If you have a parent, a spouse, a neighbor, or a friend over 60 who could use this information, please consider sharing this video with them today. It might feel like a small thing, but sending one video could be the nudge that gets someone to finally book that overdue checkup. And if you are not subscribed to Longevity Insight yet, now is the perfect time. We are building a community here focused on real, practical, no-nonsense guidance for living longer and living better, with videos on nutrition, mobility, brain health, and everything in between still to come. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell so you never miss a new upload, and I will see you in the very next video, where we will dig into something just as important for your long-term health. Take care of that heart of yours. It has been working for you every single second since before you were even born, and it deserves your attention in return.